I'm going to walk you through some notes. So we've got 3 sets of notes today. They're not equally giant, but they're all important. So let's get to it, everybody. Stop what you're working on. It's okay. Um, how many of you have done truth tables before? Raise your hand. Okay. Well, awesome for you and everybody else. You can put your hands down. It's going to be okay. So what you're looking at up here is a truth table. These aren't computer science, they're more logic. But we can use them to help figure out complicated Boolean expressions. And sometimes you may wish you knew how to do this for this class. So what we've got here is, think of it this way. We have condition A, and it could either be true or false. And then we have condition B, and it can either be true or false. So what we've got here is A. These are all the possibilities for 2 conditions. A could be true and B could be true, or A is true, B is false. And then when A is false, we've got the other 2 possibilities. So these are all the ways you can combine 2 conditions, A and B, whether they're true or false. So the first column holds the values of A, true, and T for true, F for false. You can also do 1s and 0s, 1 for true, 0 for false if you want. The first row represents where both A and B are true. And then the second is where A is true and B is false, and so on. I'd strongly recommend you look at what I'm doing up here, because you're about to have to do it on a piece of paper. You nearly always start a truth table with these 2 columns. So for the A column, just go true, true, false, false. And for the B column, go every other. True, false, true, false. That's all the possibilities. And you don't have to, you shouldn't be worrying about that part. Just true, true, false, false, and then true, false, because that's all the possibilities. And it's fine if you have to look at the notes to do it for the first couple of times, but this is always the way the first 2 columns are going to be. But now we're going to add another column. This other column is A and B. Just made it underlined to emphasize that point. If both A and B are true, so anyway, we're doing a logical analysis here. So if condition A is true and condition B is true, then A and B is also true. Otherwise, they have to both be true. Otherwise, they're not. The final column will be false. So you can just ask yourself, when we're doing an and, both the conditions going into the end have to be true. Otherwise, you put false. So here we've got A and B right here. And look, there's only one row where they're both true. So that's the one that's going to be true. And all the others will be false, because to have it be an and, they have to both be true. Questions? We're going to do another column, an or column. Or is a little different, a little more forgiving. If either A or B is true, then the or will be true, right? That's just how an if statement would work. If you said if A is greater than 0 or A is less than 7, if either were true, then the whole thing would be considered true. So let's look at this. The top row would be true, right? Because they're both true. The second row will get a true because one of them's true. Third row, one of them's true. Fourth row, neither of them's true. So we'd have a false. So this is what we get for A or B. So we're going to do another one. Look at this crazy expression. I want to figure out all the possible outcomes of not A and parentheses A or B. Okay, so this, a little scary, but you start with a regular A, B. So A and B. A is true, true, false, false. B is true, false, true, false. Just the standard A, B. You don't ever have to think about A and B. If you take time thinking about A and B, you're wasting your time. Just go look at your notes. True, true, false, false. True, false, true, false. Okay, and then I populated these other columns with the other things that we need to make this, to figure out this logic. So see up here, we have a not A. So really in the end, we're not anding with this A or B. So what we need to do is have a column for not A, and we need a column for A or B. And that's what I did here. And then this final column is this whole thing. So let's do the not A column. You just look at A and write the opposite. So it'd be false, false, true, true. False, false, true, true. Just the opposite of what's in the A column is what not A is. Not means the opposite of. And now we already know A or B. It's true, 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 false, right? If in row one, if either is true, then we have a true. If either's true, so we got a true, 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 and then a false. Okay, and then finally the last column. Don't look back at A and B. Look at the two new columns we just did, and it's an and. So is there anywhere here where I really wish I should have? Let's see what I have. Oh, I did do it. That's good. Except I really want I want to like draw a box around it. We're just looking. Whoop. Want to draw a box. Box. We're looking right here. Turn off the fill. So whoever's got their phone, make it quiet or I'm going to take it from you. You're not supposed to have your phone on you. You're supposed to put it up here. Thanks, everybody, for keeping your phone. I swear to God, I'll take your phone. So if I see you with your phone, I'm going to take it. I'll give you a little bye to make that sound go away, whoever it is. But I've already warned you about phones. You're not supposed to have your phone out, and I don't want to hear your phone. So we're just evaluating these two columns, and it's an and. So it looks like only the third row, they're both true. Otherwise, we say false. So right here, basically, we're looking at these two columns, anding them together, and then putting the results. So it's false, false, true, false. So this will show up. It could show up on the AP test where they have a really weird Boolean expression. They say, in what cases is this thing going to be true? And they'll say, oh, and then you'll have to say when A is positive and B is negative or something like that. And there'll be all the conditions. And don't worry, we'll practice. I've got a worksheet for you to do. So here you go. Yeah. You need a pencil there over here by the globe. They're free. You can keep it. There's. I counted out 7. So who's got some extras? Yeah. Well, that will do it. I did count out 7. Yes. Still. Oops. Pause the video. So for number 2, the third column, the not A, just look at the A column and put the opposite of what you had for A. Everywhere where there was a true, you put a false, and the other way around. And then you have not A and B. So now you're done with the first two columns. You're looking at the second two columns. And where are these? Oh, I made a mistake right here. This is true. False, false, true, true. So where is not A and B true? It's true on the third line. So all the other ones are false. That one's true though. And then I asked you to do A or B. So I know when I was learning this stuff, I got confused. Like, what if they're both false? Is that true? Because they're the same? And that is not how it works. They have to both be true for you to give. If we're talking about an and, we only care, it's only true if they're both true, not if they're both the same. So A or B is going to be a whole bunch of trues because we're going back to the initial columns. And it's if either one is true, then A or B is true. So it's true, 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 false. And then the last column is the not of this one we just did. So not A or B. You're just looking at the A or B column and doing the opposite. All right, problem 3 is just I want you to do a compound if statement. By the way, if you want to use ones for true and zeros for false, that's also totally legit. And people do it all the time. And in fact, I think I will for the next problem. So I said true. It's the next one that is false. Yeah. Good thinking. Good thinking. Thanks for catching that. Are we go back here? If value greater than 22 and value less than 79, system.out.println, or if value greater than equal to 23 and value less than or equal to either one or some combination thereof. Questions on number 3? Darn, don't have the worksheet up there. So I'm going to show you the answers to 4 and 5. I'm not collecting it, but did you have a question? Or let's take a look at number 4. I switched to ones and zeros because honestly, it's easier to read them than T and F, which start to look the same to me. But I mean, I'm not dyslexic, but there you go. They mean the same thing. 1 for true, 0 for false. So for number 4, the final column, that's the first thing they check. Do you have 0, 0, 0, 1? And if you do, then you did it right. And if you didn't, then you could try to figure out what went wrong. Here's A and B. That's the standard A and B. And then here's a standard not A and a standard not B. Here's not A or B. And here's not A or B ANDed with not B, which is all false except for the bottom. Maybe you're going to have access to this worksheet, the answer key later if you want to look at it. Number 5. So if you fill out this truth table, check your final column. It should be true, true, false, true. And same with the second to the last column. Anyway, the best answer down here is the final column is true when A and B are the same. It doesn't say the final column is only true when A and B are the same. But it is a true statement. The final column is true when A and B are the same. So here's A and B the same in the first row, and it's true. And here's A and B both the same in the bottom, and it's also true. Anyway, I know it's tricky. It's fine. There's one like that on the AP stuff. That's why I did that. Okay, go on to the back if you haven't already. And let's do that. Ooh, somebody's got good base system. So number 6 is just a whole bunch of Boolean things. You're supposed to just write T or F, or write true or false. This is all just practice on if statements. We're going to go just 2 more minutes here. You'll have more time today, but I want to go on with the notes so that we can just get all to work on all the things. All right, I'm going to pause the video again. Okay, if you didn't finish, we have more time today. We've got 2 more things in notes. This is the important one. I mean, they're both important, but this is the more important one. And the third one is just a lot easier. Listen up, everybody. De Morgan's law is a tool we can use to simplify complex Boolean expressions. So this person, De Morgan, figured out this thing. It's basically, think of it like distributive property for Boolean expressions. So it says this: if you're doing a not on an and, that turns into logically the same as if you did not and or not be. So watch this. It's like we're distributing this not on all the parts. It goes onto the A, so we have not A. It goes onto the and it becomes or, and it goes onto the B and it becomes not B. So in the same way, if we have a not on an or, the or changes to an and the A and the B change to nots. So you kind of just literally, like if you're one of those people that draws the little line when you do the distributive property, I do, even though I'm a math teacher, I do that. And yeah, that's what it is. So here's an example. Let's see, I ask you to simplify not num mod 2 equal 1 and num mod 3 equal 0. So that becomes num mod 2 not equal 1 or num mod 3 not equal 0. I'll put a space here to call it out. Questions? So you can't like not num, but that expression num mod 2 equal 1, the opposite of that is that it doesn't equal 1. So that's what this is. And forgot to put a space there. And then the opposite of num mod 3 equals 0 is num mod 3 not equal 0. And notice we don't have parentheses on the new one because the not, we distributed the not, so the not's gone. So I guess I have another example here. Not A equals 7 or B equals 9. So that will become A not equal 7 and B not equal 9. So this becomes A not equal 7, and this becomes an and that becomes B not equal 9. Some more information. Equals becomes not equals. Greater than becomes less than or equal to, and so on. You see the rest? If you think about it, what's the opposite if we said, hey, variable A greater than 5? The opposite of that in this logic would be less than or equal to 5. What are all the other things it could be? If it's not greater than 5, then it's either equal to 5 or less than 5. So it doesn't just go to less than from greater than. It's less than or equal to. So I say you don't have to totally memorize these except equal to not equal, and all the rest just say I'm going to do the opposite of whatever it was. So look right here. Not A greater than B, that's A less than or equal to B. Opposite of and is an or, and opposite of C is not equal to 12 is C is equal to 12. And you don't write this, you don't write exclamation A less than or equal to B. When you have this sort of, when you have a greater than, you have to go to the less than or equal to. However, if you have Boolean variables that are just holding true and false, then you can just put the not in front of the variable. Here's an example. I made two Boolean variables, is hot and is windy. They're both true. And then I'm saying, what's going to happen for this? Not is hot and not is windy. This becomes not is hot or is windy. See that we do the opposite of each thing, and you can do that when they're Boolean variables. Also, you can use the not in front of any thing that is going to give you a Boolean expression, like name1 dot equals name2. You just put a not in front of that. That'll work, because dot equals is going to give you a true or a false. So you can put a not in front of it. So it can get a little crazy. Here's a crazy one. But you can just do it one step at a time. First step, I would change this A greater than B to be A less than or equal to B, change this to an or, and then I would write a not symbol in front of here so I didn't have to do it all at once. Like, look, so I did A less than or equal to B, I changed this to or, and then I put a not here. That way you don't have to do the whole thing all at once. I mean, if you can pull it all off in your head, great. But now I'm going to do the rest. We're going to leave the A less than or equal to B or, and then I'm going to do A greater than or equal to C and B not equal to C. Just bup. And I left that parentheses around this. I think that's appropriate for something this complicated. So, all right, that's the end of this topic. I'm going to post a Google form. I want you to try practicing. And before that, though, I'll pause the video again. I'm going to do our last section of notes. They're short, they're sweet, and they're not even going to be on the test for this chapter. But look up here. You need to know it for the AP test, and it's part of this unit, so I'm just covering it. There's these things called wrapper classes. They are basically fancy primitive variables. So I want to remind you, primitive variables are int, double, Boolean. There's others, but those are the ones we use. And then we have class or reference variables, which are things like strings and custom classes like the frog that we made. And I'm saying right here, for reasons that don't matter today, everybody, you should be looking up here, not doing whatever you're doing. For reasons that don't matter today, but that will be important later, Java sometimes needs you to have integers and doubles that are class data, that use more memory, that are more complicated. And so they have the capital I integer class and the capital D double class. And after you create these things, you can just use them just like they were regular ints or doubles. It's not a big deal. But Along with that class comes this max value. Do you remember we learned this in Unit 1, integer.maxValue? That's where this came from. It's from the integer class. There's other methods and properties and things, but these are the only things we need to use. Integer max value, integer min value, and then check out double max value. It's 1.79. I think that's 308, 10 to the 308 on the end. I'm not positive, but that's a big number. Okay, so technically, once you create these things, they just work like regular ints or doubles. Some of you have accidentally created integers with a capital I or doubles with a capital D, but normally you don't want to do it that way unless you need to. So normally you keep double small t, and it's easy to not do an int accidentally because it's just int with a small I. But so one way to create, this is how you would create it. Integer x equals new integer. You probably could even say integer x equals 5. I bet that would work fine. But there's also this method, int value, which I think Java in the early days, it required you to use that to access the information that was stored in there, but you don't have to anymore. And if you try to on REPL, it says you're really using code you shouldn't be using. So we're not going to practice this stuff now. I just wanted you to hear about it. Yes, Greg.
Why would we use like these wrapper classes instead of just setting up it?
Later, in fact, in Unit 7, we have a thing called an array list, which is a list of objects, and it can't hold primitives. So if you wanted to make a list with an array list of integers, you have to use capital I integer. So that's when we're really going to use it. I don't know why they introduced it in Unit 3, probably because Unit 3 was kind of light. It's basically if else. Woo, we're done. So we threw in wrapper classes and the Boolean complication. Okay, so for the rest of today, finish the warm-up if you haven't. Finish the truth tables worksheet. The help video for today, for all of today's things already posted. The help video, that post has the key to the worksheet, so you can check your answers on the back page. There's the Google form practice. There's a practice REPL. And then finally, there's I'm doing the Unit 3 multiple choice problems on the AP Classroom. You're probably not all going to finish this today. And that's okay. A lot of them are really quick. There's 21 problems, but a lot of them are like these real quick Boolean things. There's 21 problems because a lot of them are really simple. So I'd like you to finish those before class starts on Friday. Also, there's a help video where you can see me work them out for the ones you have trouble with. Okay, I'll post everything. We're done with our video.